ABC's Brian Ross joins us now. All right, so first fill me in. Have you been tracking this interview? I've been trying to get this interview with Marianne Gingrich for a while now. How did it all come together? Did she come to you?
Since November, we approached her. And our request was based on a story we were working on that involved what was an aborted FBI investigation of the Gingriches, and in particular Marianne Gingrich, who back in 97, when he was the Speaker, was accused by some of trying to collect money to buy influence with the Speaker. And the FBI set up a sting involving a convicted felon, and that's why we wanted to talk to her at first. And since that investigation never went anywhere and the FBI shut it down, she offered no new insights on that other than to say that she was unaware that she was the topic of the sting.
Okay, you've been trying to get it since November. Did she come back and then say, all right, now I'm willing to talk because
on again, off again, and we finally did the interview last Friday in Washington.
All right, so what's the news out of this, Brian? I mean, what did you learn that you didn't know before?
Well, I think we start by knowing that what an ex-wife has to say, we all take with a grain of salt, I hope, because that's what ex-wives, can be known for. But I think the most dramatic thing from the point of view of people looking at Gingrich and his campaign about character and that he's asked God's forgiveness and that he believes in the sanctity of marriage is her allegation that what Gingrich wanted from her was an open marriage. He came to her and said, I want to stay married to you and still have an affair with Callista, his current wife. And according to Marianne, he said, you need to share me. And she said, I don't want to share, and the marriage ended.
Now, did she go into that in further detail? Because I believe that's mentioned in the Esquire interview, that he had asked her to just live with the affair.
Well, I think, but, she very much specifically says this was a request for an open marriage.
Gotcha.
And she talks about how he called her to say he loved her, knowing that Callista was right next to him in bed in their apartment in Washington. So it's the first time we've seen her on camera talking about it. You can get an idea, a sense of her. And she says she wants to come forward now because she thinks these are things the voters should know.
Now, what we've known about the infidelity, I mean, the Speaker has admitted that. He's apologized for the mistakes that he made that led to the dissolution of his marriage. I think he probably regrets many things that happened back then. But beyond that, is that the only thing that we will uncover? I mean, were there any other allegations of wrongdoing by the Speaker?
It's the other way around. I think that's why this is, in a way, interesting. She defends his tenure as Speaker.
Really?
And says, yes, and says that he acted in an ethical way, that she was involved in many of these controversial deals that led to investigations on the Hill, and that she felt that he was wronged by the investigations, and because that she was involved, she wants the voters also to know that he, at least in that world, in terms of the money and what the allegations were as he was Speaker, was an ethical man.
And just to follow up, I mean, I'm sorry to jump in here, but, I mean, we're hearing phone calls this morning from conservatives and people who are supporters of Newt Gingrich saying the timing on this is really suspect.
Well, the timing in part is hers because we couldn't do the interview until she would do it. And then once we got it, we had to give him time to respond, which we contacted him on Tuesday. And we didn't want to do it tomorrow, because day before the election, so that's why it's going to go tonight.
Was there debate? There had been reporting that there was debate within ABC News on when this should air. Is that accurate? Was there a debate about it, and why was it decided that it's going to air after the debate tonight in South Carolina?
Well, the key point that my bosses made was they did not want it to air on Friday, the day before the election. That we have essentially a 24-hour rule about that we're not going to break a big story about somebody 24 hours before the election. And so that pushed it back to tonight, and that was that's fine by me. That's the day originally we had planned, and so I'm good with that.
Will there be excerpts available, or is everything embargoed until tonight? I wonder, because people are going to be asking about this at the
no, absolutely.
debate.
In fact, once I'm through talking to you, I'm going to sit down and write a story for our ABC News website, the Blotter, where we have all our investigative stories. And we'll start to post some of the audio clips online. Video and audio?
Okay.
Did you contact Newt Gingrich or his campaign and ask them to respond to that? And did they have any response at all?
We asked very specific questions about some of the things she says, and as of Tuesday, and we've not heard from them other than a statement that was sent to us by his two daughters, essentially saying that any marriage that ends is a sad and emotional time. We've asked them to provide somebody to speak who, asked for Mr. Gingrich himself, and apparently that's not going to happen. But they say they may make someone available to come.
Well, that's very interesting, Brian, because I had a brief encounter with the speaker last night in Greenville, and I asked him, do you know anything about this story? And he said no. So he did know the details of what Marianne Gingrich has alleged.
Well, his press person, RC, certainly has known about it since Tuesday. So.
Okay.
A lot of people want to know also. They call up and say, all right, this guy, has an ex-wife. There are a lot of people in politics who have ex-wives. There are people who have run for the, White House before, have had ex-wives, divorces. Why are we doing this with Newt Gingrich? Why not with other people? Did we do it with John Kerry in 2004?
Well, we certainly looked into the background there. His ex-wife was supportive of John Kerry, as I recall. And it's with each candidate there are issues that we've raised. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Mitt Romney and the funds he has in the Cayman Islands and his tax rate and his previously undisclosed contributions to his church. We're sort of look at all the candidates at this point. That's one of the jobs, I think, of a vibrant free press.
Do you know, is Marianne Gingrich, is she a Republican? Was she a Republican? Do you know?
She is Republican. She was an active Republican. I think she was fairly active in many of his campaigns and considers herself a true conservative. I asked her if she has somebody she is supporting in this race. She said no, there's no such person. She hasn't decided on that, but she's no fan of President Obama.
Brian, how long was the interview, and will we see the full thing or the full transcript at some point?
It went on because I spent a lot of time on this whole FBI investigation, and in the end, I think that it boils down to a few things from her, and a lot of time just to talk about how the relationship began and what the marriage was like. That may or may not be that interesting. So the Nightline piece will, boil a lot of that down, and we'll put as much as we can that we think is newsworthy, on the air.
But it sounds like the big news, though, is that he asked Marianne Gingrich for an open marriage, for him to be able to, be with other people just besides her, but stay married.
That and sort of, I think it's the tone of what she says, I would say, if you really, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but the hypocrisy of a man who, right after calling her up at her mother's house to ask for a divorce, then went to Erie, Pennsylvania to give a speech on family values, and she challenged him on this and carrying out an affair for 6 years in her apartment when she was out of town. And he, according to her, said, it doesn't matter what I do, it only matters what I say. That's my role in the world, is to speak about these issues.
All right, Brian. Good to have you on. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.